There is a quiet ache many people carry, an ache that whispers, "You're not enough, not smart enough, not strong enough, not beautiful enough, not lovable enough." This ache does not always shout. Sometimes it lingers in silence, in the pauses between your thoughts, in the quiet after a mistake, in the loneliness of the night. It becomes a shadow that follows you wherever you go. Even when life looks fine on the outside, the ache persists on the inside. It is not always easy to name, because it feels so familiar, as if it has always been there. A background hum of self-doubt, a constant whisper of insufficiency. You try to work harder, you try to be better, you try to meet every expectation. But still, the whisper remains. It tells you no achievement will ever be enough. No success will ever quiet it. No perfection will ever satisfy it. Because the ache is not about achievement, it is about belonging. It is about love. It is about the tender question, am I worthy? This question often begins in childhood. In the moments you needed comfort, but found distance. In the times you longed for affirmation, but heard silence. In the small rejections that built into big wounds. When love felt conditional, when approval felt earned, not given. When you had to shrink parts of yourself to be accepted. Or when you had to be louder than your nature to be seen. These moments root the ache deeply. They plant the idea that you must do more to be worthy, or be different to be lovable, or be perfect to deserve care. This is how the ache begins. And it is not your fault. You did not choose the silence. You did not choose the neglect. You did not choose the conditional love. You simply grew within it, and the ache became part of you. It does not mean you are broken. It does not mean you are less. It means you learned to survive without the softness you needed. You adapted to protect yourself. You believed you had to earn what should have been freely given. And now, as an adult, the ache still lingers. It tells you lies that feel like truths. Lies that say you must always prove yourself. Lies that say love is conditional. Lies that say your softness is a weakness. Lies that say your needs are too much. But beneath the lies, something remains. A quiet longing. A longing to rest in your own enoughness. A longing to know you are safe without proving. A longing to be held in your wholeness. The ache may feel unbearable at times, but even in the ache, there is hope, because the ache points to what you truly deserve. It points to the love you longed for. It points to the gentleness you craved. It points to the truth. You were always worthy, even if no one told you, even if no one showed you, even if no one reminded you. Worthiness was never missing. What was missing was recognition. What was missing was affirmation. What was missing was unconditional love. And none of that was your fault. You did not fail by needing. You did not fail by feeling. You did not fail by longing. You were simply human. And to be human is to need. To be human is to ache. To be human is to long for love. If you feel the weight of not being enough, pause. Breathe into the ache. Recognize it as a sign of your humanity, not your failure, not your weakness. The ache is not proof of your lack, it is proof of your longing. And longing is sacred. Longing is the heart's way of remembering. Remembering that you were always worthy. Remembering that love was always your birthright. And remembering that not enough was never the truth. The ache of not being enough does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it slips into the smallest moments. The moment you hesitate before sending a message, wondering if your words matter, or if silence would be safer. The moment you look in the mirror and notice only flaws, never enough beauty, never enough strength, never enough of anything. The ache hides in your relationships. When you over-apologize, when you try to fix everything, when you shrink yourself to keep the peace, when you say yes, though your heart says no, it shows up at work. When you doubt your ideas, and you compare your pace to others. When you stay quiet in meetings, though you have something to say. When you leave drained, carrying the weight of invisible proving. It follows you into friendships. When you wonder if you are too much or not enough to be chosen. When you replay every conversation, searching for mistakes. When you fear being forgotten if you do not try harder. The ache even touches moments of rest. When you feel guilty for pausing, when you cannot sit still without thinking of what you should be doing, when relaxation feels like failure, as if you must always earn your right to exist. The ache is subtle. It lives in the way you second-guess yourself. It's the way you compare your timeline to others. The way you rush through milestones, never feeling satisfied. The way you secretly fear you are always behind. It is present in the way you measure love, the suspicion that care might disappear, the fear that affection is fragile, in the belief that being yourself is never enough to keep someone close. So you give more, you do more, you stretch beyond your capacity. And still, the ache lingers. It lingers in the quiet after you've given everything. It lingers in the exhaustion that no one sees. It lingers in the silence of being unnoticed. The ache convinces you to perform, to always be on, to always be pleasing, to always be useful, yet beneath the performance is a longing to simply rest as yourself, without the mask, without the striving, without the proving. This ache is not only emotional, it becomes physical. Tightness in your chest when you feel unseen, tension in your shoulders when you try to hold it all together, fatigue that lingers even after sleep. The body remembers the ache too. It holds the weight of unspoken doubts, carries the heaviness of unexpressed needs. It trembles under the fear of rejection. The ache shows up in how you dream. Dreams of being chosen. Dreams of being celebrated. Dreams of being seen without effort. Dreams that remind you of what feels missing. Sometimes the ache makes you question your worth and love. Why would they stay, you wonder? What if they see the real me and leave? What if I am not enough to keep them? So you overcompensate. You give more than you have. You silence your own needs. You carry the weight alone, and the ache deepens. The ache touches even joy. You celebrate, but quietly wonder if you deserve it. Smile, but question if it is earned. You achieve, but feel the hollowness of still not enough. This is how the ache hides in life's brightest moments. It whispers beneath laughter. It lingers beneath accomplishments. It waits beneath love. The ache shows up in your silence. The words you never speak. The truths you bury. The tears you swallow. Because somewhere inside you fear those truths will confirm your worst belief, that you are not enough. But hear this gently. The ache is not proof of your inadequacy. The ache is proof of your humanity. Proof of the depth of your longing. Proof of the tenderness of your soul. Proof of the love you are still learning to give yourself. And proof that you are always more than enough, even in your most hidden ache. To live with the ache of not being enough is to live in constant translation. Translating silence into rejection. Translating mistakes into failure. Translating distance into proof that you are unworthy. Every moment becomes a mirror. And every mirror feels distorted. You begin to read your life as evidence against yourself. Every pause feels like abandonment. Every no feels like condemnation. Every absence feels like proof of your lacking. Living with the ache means you are rarely at rest. Even in stillness, your mind races. Even in safety, your heart doubts. Even in love, you hold your breath. You carry an invisible weight through each day. A weight no one else sees. A weight that whispers you must keep striving. Whispers you must never falter. That whispers you are always one step away from being left behind. This ache makes every goodbye feel heavier. Every delay feel longer. Every silence feel louder. Every imperfection feel unforgivable. Living with this ache is like living with an inner critic, a voice that never rests, a voice that measures everything you do, a voice that keeps moving the line of enough. And no matter what you give, the line is never met. It tells you to work harder, to speak softer, to shine brighter, to need less, to be more than you are, always. It convinces you that love is conditional, that safety is fragile, that worth is earned, not given. And so, you live guarded. Guarded even with yourself, afraid to admit the depth of your longing, afraid to admit the depth of your exhaustion, afraid to show the soft, unpolished parts of who you are. Living with the ache means relationships feel unbalanced. You give more than you take. You hold more than you share. You pour out without knowing how to be filled. You love others with a fierceness you struggle to give yourself. And yet you fear that even this love will not be enough. The ache is not only loneliness. It is the loneliness of being unseen, even in connection. It's the loneliness of being misunderstood, even in conversation. It's the loneliness of being present, but still feeling invisible. Living with the ache means joy feels temporary, happiness feels fragile, peace feels undeserved, safety feels like it could slip away at any moment. It means waking each day with a quiet dread, a dread that whispers, "Will today prove I am not enough?" A dread that never lets you fully breathe, a dread that lingers, even in the brightest rooms. To live with this ache is to live with longing. Longing for someone to see you. Longing for someone to choose you without conditions. Longing for a place where you no longer have to prove yourself. Longing to rest without guilt. Longing to exist without performance. Longing to belong simply by being. The ache is not weakness. It is the mark of how deeply you care, how deeply you want to belong, how deeply you crave love that does not waver. To live with this ache is to live with tenderness. Tenderness toward every rejection. Tenderness toward every absence. Tenderness toward every unanswered need. Tenderness that sometimes feels unbearable. You notice details others miss. The tone of someone's silence. The weight of someone's sigh. The shift in someone's eyes. Because you are always watching for signs of your worth. You measure yourself through others' responses. You read their moods as reflections of your value. You see yourself in the way they stay or leave. And every shift feels like a judgment. Living with the ache means you often struggle to trust love. You wait for the conditions to change. You wait for affection to fade. You wait for care to be withdrawn. You wait for the moment when they see what you fear most and decide you are not enough. This is the quiet truth. The ache of not being enough is not about failure. It is about fear. Fear that your humanity will cost you love. Fear that your needs will push people away. Fear that your softest self will not be welcomed. But here's another truth. This ache is not the end of your story. It is the tender beginning of learning what love truly is. Love that does not demand perfection, but welcomes the whole of you. Healing does not begin with a grand gesture. It begins with one quiet permission. Permission to stop proving. Permission to stop running. Permission to simply sit with yourself as you are. The ache does not dissolve by force. It softens when it is finally allowed to exist, allowed to breathe in the light of your awareness, allowed to be seen without judgment. To break free from its grip, you must begin where you are, with your weary heart, with your trembling hands, with your longing that has never been answered, with your fear that still lingers. Sit with them gently. Whisper, "You are allowed here." Whisper, "You are not too much." Whisper, "You are not too little." Healing is not about erasing the ache. It is about changing your relationship with it. No longer fearing its presence. It's no longer letting it define your worth. No longer letting it silence your voice. Start by noticing when the ache appears. Notice the moment you feel not enough. Instead of pushing it away, pause. Breathe into that space. Ask gently, "What do you need from me right now?" The ache often responds with silence. But beneath the silence, there is a child within you. A child still longing to be held. A child still waiting to be chosen. A child still needing to be told, "You are safe. You are enough, just as you are." Begin breaking free by offering yourself the words you needed then. Speak to yourself as you wish someone had spoken to you, even if it feels strange, even if it feels untrue at first. Healing often begins in the awkward repetition of love. Love that feels foreign, yet slowly becomes familiar. Another way to soften the ache is through gentleness with mistakes. Mistakes are not proof of unworthiness. They are proof of being human. Proof that you are alive, still learning, still moving. Each mistake can be reframed as a teacher, not as a verdict. Begin whispering, "This too belongs." Whispering, "Even here I am enough." Another step is to let your needs exist without shame. To say, "I need rest." To say, "I need kindness." To say, "I need connection." Needs are not weaknesses. Needs are bridges to wholeness. Needs are proof that you are human, not broken. Every time you honor a need, you loosen the ache's hold, because the ache feeds on denial. It grows in silence. But when you begin to speak, it begins to lose its power. Begin by speaking softly, even just to yourself. Let your voice carry your truth, even if no one else hears. Another practice is to remember that worth cannot be earned. Worth is not measured by achievements. Worth is not measured by perfection. Worth is not measured by how seamlessly you please others. Worth is given like breath. Worth is your birthright. Worth is woven into you, unshaken by failure. Let this truth rise gently within you. Even if you can only believe it for one breath, that one breath is enough to begin. Healing also asks you to rest. Rest from striving. Rest from performing. Rest from trying to hold the entire world together. Rest in your own softness. Rest in your own becoming. Rest in the simple truth. You are still here. And being here is enough. Over time, you will notice the ache softening, not disappearing, but no longer ruling, no longer dictating every thought, no longer defining every choice. It will remain, but in the background. A reminder of your sensitivity, not a measure of your worth. To break free from its grip is to reclaim your story. To remember, the ache was born in places where love was absent, but you are now the keeper of your own love. You are now the one who chooses yourself, again and again, in small ways, in quiet ways. You are now the one who says, stay. The ache begins to lose power when you no longer abandon yourself, when you no longer leave yourself behind, when you finally sit beside the ache and whisper, you are not my enemy. You are my wounded self, still waiting for love. And then you begin to offer it, slowly, patiently, gently, not to erase the ache, but to transform it into a doorway leading you back to yourself. The ache of not being enough is not only pain, it is also a teacher. It has carved out space inside you for depth, depth that others may never know, depth that allows you to feel life with greater sensitivity. Sensitivity is not weakness. It is the quiet root of compassion. Because you know what it feels like to ache, you are gentle with the aching of others. Because you know the weight of invisibility, you notice those who are unseen. Because you have wrestled with self-doubt, you understand the trembling of someone's voice when they say, I'm not enough. The ache has given you empathy that cannot be faked. Empathy that feels like a soft light in a dark room. Empathy that holds others when words cannot. This ache has also given you resilience. Resilience born not from ease, but from endurance. You have survived silent battles no one knows about. You have carried burdens that left invisible bruises. You've learned to stand again, even when no one came to lift you. This resilience is quiet, but unshakable. It is not about pretending to be strong. It is about knowing you have walked through fire and still breathe. Strength shaped by ache is different. It is not loud or demanding. It does not need to prove itself. It simply exists, steady, rooted, alive. The ache has also carved wisdom within you. Wisdom that sees beneath the surface of things. Wisdom that understands how fragile people truly are. Wisdom that recognizes masks for what they are. It's because you have worn masks yourself. Because you know what it means to hide pain behind a smile. This wisdom keeps you tender. Tenderness is another gift. Tenderness is not fragility. Tenderness is the quiet courage to remain soft in a hard world. To open your heart even after it has been bruised. To love gently in a world that often rewards hardness. Tenderness is the flower that grows in the cracks of your ache. It is not weakness. It is the most radiant form of strength. The ache has also given you the gift of listening. You listen beyond words. You listen to silences, to pauses, to the unsaid, because you know how it feels to go unheard. Your listening makes others feel safe. Your presence becomes healing in itself. The ache has taught you patience, patience with slow healing, patience with the quiet unfolding of growth, patience with yourself, though it took time to learn. This patience is not passive. It is the calm strength of one who knows that becoming cannot be rushed. The ache has also given you creativity, because emptiness seeks expression. Pain longs to find language. Out of the ache can come poetry, art, music, words. Out of the ache can come beauty born from brokenness. You have a voice that carries the truth of your ache, and when shared, it can free others from theirs. This is how your wound becomes a lantern. This is how your ache becomes a gift to the world. The ache of not being enough has given you awareness. Awareness of how deeply people long to belong. Awareness of how fragile self-worth can be. Awareness of the unspoken pain that lives in so many hearts. This awareness keeps you kind. It keeps you from cruelty. It keeps you soft in a world that tempts hardness. Another quiet gift of the ache is gratitude. It's not the shallow gratitude forced by others, but the deep gratitude that comes from knowing how dark life can feel. Gratitude for small moments of light. Gratitude for a kind word, a warm glance, a quiet day. Gratitude that feels sacred because you know the ache that once made joy feel impossible. Gratitude that roots you in the present. In time, the ache reshapes you into someone deeply human. Someone who does not need to be perfect to be loving. Someone who does not need to be flawless to be kind. Someone who carries scars but offers comfort. Someone who has known emptiness but creates space for others. The ache can turn into wisdom that whispers. You are not alone. It whispers. Every heart carries something unseen. It whispers. Tenderness is strength, not weakness. The ache becomes a quiet mentor, a mentor that never shouts, a mentor that teaches through silence, through endurance, through presence. It teaches you how to hold yourself gently. It teaches you how to love without conditions. It teaches you that strength does not mean never breaking. It means learning how to hold the broken pieces with care. The ache may never disappear completely, but it transforms you into someone softer, wiser, stronger. Someone who can sit with pain without fleeing. Someone who can see beauty even in sorrow. Someone who can whisper to others, "You are enough," because you've learned to whisper it to yourself. The ache does not erase your worth. It has quietly shaped the way you live, love, and see the world. And in this shaping, you have become something beautiful. You have walked with this ache for so long. It has felt like a shadow that never leaves. A whisper in the back of your mind. You are not enough. But today, let us lay that whisper down. Let us look at it with soft eyes. This ache was never born from truth. It was born from absence. From words you never heard, but needed. From love that was withheld, or too fragile to stay. From expectations that no child could carry. You were never the failure. You were the one who carried what was too heavy. You carried it in silence. That silence became your ache. But silence is not destiny. You are allowed to rewrite the story. You are allowed to soften toward yourself. You're allowed to breathe without proving. You are allowed to rest without earning. You are allowed to be loved simply for existing. The ache will tell you this is not true. But the ache does not get the final word. You do, and you can choose gentleness. You can choose patience with yourself. You can choose to believe in your worth, even before you feel it. Healing is not about erasing the ache. It is about learning to hold it with kindness. To let it be there without letting it define you. To let it speak, but not obey. To sit with it, but not become it. Slowly, the ache softens in your hands. Slowly, the whisper fades into quiet, and in its place, a new voice emerges. A voice that says, "You are enough now, not when you achieve more, not when you become someone else, but here, today, as you are." This truth is not loud. It does not fight for attention. It simply waits, gently, for you to hear it. And when you finally do, it feels like a soft exhale, like resting after a long journey, like laying down a weight you never should have carried. The ache may still visit, but you will know it differently now, not as proof of your unworthiness, but as a reminder of your humanity. It shows you that you are sensitive, that you care deeply, that you long for connection and meaning. And these are not flaws. They are treasures. The world needs people like you. People who can feel. People who can listen. People who can hold tenderness in their hands. The ache has shaped you, yes, but it does not define you. You are more than the echo of old wounds. You are the living proof of quiet resilience. You are the gentle strength that rises after silence. You are the wisdom that blooms from broken ground. You are the tenderness that softens a harsh world. You are the lantern in someone else's dark. And you shine not by being perfect, but by being real, by being present, by being human. The ache does not erase this truth. It only makes it more radiant. Because you have learned to love in spite of it, to hope in spite of it, to keep breathing in spite of it. That is not weakness. That is courage. That is beauty. And that is you. Perhaps you will always carry a trace of this ache. But it no longer has to be your burden. It can become your teacher. your reminder to choose gentleness, your invitation to rest in your own worth. You do not have to be flawless. You do not have to be extraordinary. You do not have to be endlessly happy. You simply have to be, and that is enough. Enough for this moment, enough for the people who truly see you, enough for life itself. When the ache whispers again, you can smile softly and remind yourself, I am not what I was told I lacked. I am what I continue to become. I am what I quietly give to others. I am enough, even in my becoming. Let that truth rest with you tonight. Let it breathe in your chest like a small flame. Let it guide you gently, always back home to yourself. This is quiet philosophy, where thinking isn't loud, and life doesn't need to be either. Subscribe if you haven't already, not for noise, but for something you can actually feel.